You forgot to bring it in 19 seconds, huh?
There's a train that comes from Namibia and Malawi. There's a train that comes from Zambia and Zimbabwe. There's a train that comes from Angola and Mozambique, from Lesotho, from Botswana, from Swaziland, from all the hinterlands of southern and central Africa. This train carries young and old African men who are conscripted to come and work on contract in the gold and mineral mines of Johannesburg and its surrounding metropoli. 16 hours or more a day for almost no pay. Deep, deep, deep down in the belly of the earth, when they are digging and drilling for that shiny, mighty, evasive stone, or when they dish that mishmash mush food into their iron plates with the iron shovel, or when they sit in their stinky, funky, filthy, flea-ridden barracks and hostels, they think about the loved ones they may never see again because they might already have been forcibly removed from where they last left them, or wantonly murdered in the dead of night by roving and marauding gangs of no particular origin.
Bring it back up, Harry. Bring it back up.
They think about their lands and their herds that were taken away from them with the gun and the bomb and the tear gas and the Gatling and the cannon. And when they hear that choo-choo train, a chugging and a pumping and a smoking and a pushing and a pumping, crying and a steaming and a chicken and a what? They always cuss and they curse the coal train that brought them to Johannesburg.
One more time, Harry. Okay, Harry. You are listening to the sounds of Hugh Masekela, that is South African's king of jazz music, RIP. We're listening to the sounds of Simela. It's called the Coal Train. Know nothing about that, do you? Yeah, I know. They just never know which direction I'm coming with, whether it's country music, whether it's trap music, whether it's drill music, whether it's soul music. But today we are jazzing it. We are African jazzing it, man. You know, that was a very powerful music, man. You might need to check it out, Hugh Masekela. Um, Today is Wednesday, and this is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM WNHH LP, where you will hear conversation, information, education, inspiration, and motivation from your American urban perspective. I am your host, Kingsley Osei, and if you are just joining us today on right, get out of here. If you are just joining us today on Urban Talk Radio, you can join the conversation on Facebook at Bold Minds and Twitter at Bold Minds. You can also stream this show on your smartphone or computer by logging on to newhavenindependent.org. Today, we have a very special guest, my brother, Reverend Dr. Herron Gaston, who is the VP of External Affairs and Chief of Staff to the President at University of Bridgeport. Today's topic, we will be discussing politics, economy, violence, recreations, re-entry, and of course, democracy. Democracy, that word, right? Democracy. Reverend Gaston, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. What do you think about my intro music?
Oh, I really love your intro music. I mean, it was certainly life-giving, and I was able to really ruminate just for a couple of minutes or so, listening to the words as they took root in my bones.
Very powerful words. Now, I used a different one for your for the flyer. Did you listen to that one?
Unfortunately, I didn't have an opportunity to do so, but I
Oh,
will.
oh man, that intro for that flyer was supposed to prepare you for this show. So if you are not feeling the spirit, it's because you did not listen to that
Well,
intro.
the Spirit is alive and well in me, as the Holy Spirit is embodied in the essence of all that I do.
Definitely, man. All right, so we're gonna get straight to it, man. Today, we basically want to give you an opportunity to go through your legislative accomplishment and make your case for why you should be re-elected as the state senator for the 23rd district, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to make it clear. Um, I have two dogs in this thing right now. Reverend Gaston, once upon a time, I reported to him as the assistant CEO of the city of Bridgeport, and he was nothing but kind to me. He never micromanaged me. He had my back at all time, and was vice versa. He's I won't say he's running against, but he's the incumbent. And my brother Ernie Newton, who also has been a very good friend for a very long time, always there when I call on him, is running against Reverend Gaston. He's Ernie Newton is actually currently a city councilman. So we're going to feature Ernie Newton next week. And then hopefully, if they can both agree, we'll bring them together and debate for why they should be elected to the office of state senate. So, Reverend Gaston, I'm going to give you this opportunity to make your case, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. First and foremost, thank you for having me on today. I also want to just pay special recognition to the incredible people of the wonderful city of Bridgeport and the town of Stratford who have allowed me to serve in the state Senate during this previous legislative session. As I promised during the campaign, that I would continue to stay visible, that I would continue to champion issues around education, issues around public safety, and issue around quality of life issues that concern many of our residents across Bridgeport and the town of Stratford. I think that when folks look at my record, they could let the record reflect that I have been consistent in my ability to be transparent with voters. I've stayed on the scene to let voters know what I'm working on. We've done several town hall meetings, whether in person. We've done a number of teletown hall meetings as well with the residents, and I consistently send out information regarding what I'm working on in Hartford. But just to cut to the chase, one of the things that I've been incredibly proud about is that the first time in the history of the state of Connecticut, we actually passed a law, and it was spearheaded by myself. And much credit also goes to one of my colleagues, Fred G. in the House, who helped to champion it in the House, where we passed a bill that required law enforcement officials to tell a motorist the reason that they're being stopped. At the height of George Floyd, and at the height of Eric Garner, at the height of Tamir Rice, where we've seen a lot of officer-involved incidents where many folks who look like me fall under the crushing yoke of injustice by an inherently prejudicial criminal justice system. And oftentimes, when police officers are involved and they stop over a vehicle, if the motorist is not told why they're being stopped, sometimes it can create a situation where it escalates opposed to being de-escalated. So with this bill, it requires law enforcement officials across the state of Connecticut to tell motorists, regardless of what they look like, what they're driving, what neighborhood they're from, why they're being stopped. This has had a overwhelmingly positive impact across our state already. I've garnered the respect and admiration of the police union across the state of Connecticut, the police association, as well as the commissioner of police in the state of Connecticut around this bill. I also helped to champion a bill that require law enforcement officials to meet with nonprofit organizations who are working in the community to disrupt gun violence and to address systemic issues in our community around violence initiatives. And all these things are quality of life issues, especially for Bridgeport being overwhelmingly second chance kind of community, that I'm touching the pulse of what the issues that matter most to folks in Bridgeport. More importantly, I help to bring over $500 million in state aid to Bridgeport during our past electoral cycle. In addition, $5 million to increase education funding for the town of Stratford. I also brought in $3.5 million for the Civic Block, which is on the east end of Bridgeport to help revitalize the Stratford Avenue corridor. I also helped to bring in $2.4 million to renovate the Stratford South End Community Center, which historically have not received any funding from any of the previous senators who sat in this seat prior to my being elected. Helped to bring over $10 million to support nonprofits and youth violence prevention program initiatives across the city of Bridgeport and the town of Stratford. An additional $4.5 million to career resources to help formerly incarcerated individuals reintegrate back in society after they've served their time. I worked with the delegation to help bring over $19 million into the Bridgeport public school system to ensure that our kids receive a constitutionally adequate education that's promised to them by our Constitution, and that our students are just as deserving of an educational quality experience as any student in Fairfield County or Greenwich or anywhere else. So I believe that I have really hit the ground running. I believe that the proof is in the pudding in terms of what I've been able to contribute back to this community, working in tandem with the delegation. I was the only person that was selected from the Senate this past year to attend the White House ceremony around violence prevention. I was appointed to the task force to deal with gun violence and to address public safety concerns, considering my innovative approaches to public safety across the state of Connecticut. I'm deeply humbled for the privilege to serve in the state Senate and to have gained the admiration and respect of my Senate colleagues that have believed in me in my first term to make me Deputy Majority Leader, and to give me responsibilities to be the chair of public safety, the vice chair of human services. I also serve on the Senate Judiciary Committee to help appoint judges across the state of Connecticut. I serve on the Environment Committee and the Transportation Committee, alongside being on the Governor's Workforce Council. So I don't think that these things happen without one having significant leadership abilities and skills to be able to do the work. And so I think, based on my track record of success, that the people of Bridgeport and Stratford deserve to have someone who take them in their heart each and every day when they're doing the work up at the Capitol.
Man, undeniably, that is one hell of an accomplishment. And I basically hear you say I, but I believe you do have a hell of a team to.
Absolutely. Well, I know that we're interviewing me specifically in terms of why I feel that I should be reelected back to the Senate. And I've mentioned several times over that we do work in tandem with our delegation very closely on delivering for Bridgeport. It's not a one-man show, but nonetheless, it does. You do have to have someone who is an initiator, who is a leader, who is able to work across the aisle and to really be able to deliver results.
It's crazy because on the national politics side of things, I don't hear anybody ask people like Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene, what have they accomplished? Because I hear a whole lot of noise and disruption, and I just can't see how people elect candidates like that. And it's like, what are you really accomplishing? Because every time the mic come on, you are attacking, and I'm hearing them using languages. I'm constantly watching the news a lot of time with my daughter next to me, and she may be on her tablet, but she can also hear that background. My daughter really knows about news probably more than a bunch of grown folks out here. And I was watching her the other day, and she was just cursing and using the F-bomb, and I'm like, since when was this accepted? I mean, since when did we allow people as such to lead us? I mean, how did we get here? Before we get into what we really have to talk about, I really needed to know, how did we get here, Rev?
I think that, we're starting to really see that people have gotten away from just basic respect for each other. And politics is no different. Politics is the process by which we choose our elected officials and we hold them accountable to the constituents that they represent. At the end of the day, we are accountable to the constituents, to the electorate, to the people who elected us to be in public office. And I think that the bar has gotten so low because the louder voices, what I like to call the vocal minorities, have made more noise than the better angels. And the better angels have decided to stay quiet and to kind of stay out of the mud and the minutia of politics because it has become so vitriolic. It has become so nasty. It has become such a dirty game, and that people often use the excuse, well, it's politics. Well, I think that you have decent people in every profession, and you have tyrannical people and bad people in every profession. But I certainly do think that the voices of the majority people who are good need to see a good fight, get in the middle of the arena, be willing to get their hands dirty, and to stand up to what I consider to be a bully culture that have been created in our politics. And I think that's what we're seeing. It's no different from what we're seeing in Bridgeport, where people are saying that, it's politics as usual. It's Bridgeport. It's always been that way. It will always be that way. Well, I would say to many of those folks that the seven last words to a dying and an eroding institution is that we've never done it this way before. We have to be willing to change. We have to be willing to stand up to bullies. We have to be willing to say that we're going to turn the tide and that we are going to stand up for decency. We are going to stand up for respect. We are going to restore ourselves back to our glory days where we can sit across the aisle from people who think differently from us. And even though we might disagree, that we don't have to be disagreeable and we don't have to beat each other down in order to make ourselves look good or to prop ourselves up. I think that's what we have to get back to. We need to continue to elect good people. We need to give people an opportunity. And we also need to invest in our young people. And we need to increase the standard of what it means to run for public office in this country.
I will hope to circle back around to this because you are a rev, a man of faith, and I don't see how it bothers me, and many that we have an ex-president who is guilty of 34 felony counts of falsified business records for paying a harsh money to a porno star while his wife was had his baby. I don't know how this can be justified. How, my friend Harry, the producer, just put something in the chart talking about acting like a banana republic does not help. I guess he's accusing Democrats of acting like a banana republic. But what really doesn't help is the fact that you could justify picking a candidate of this caliber. How did we get here where the bar is set so low that the greatest country in the world is electing an ex-president who was responsible for an insurrection with all these charges? 34 counts. He's currently a felon, a convicted felon, and a lot more charges pending. How do we get here? And how do you justify that as a Christian, aka the evangelicals?
First foremost, let me just say this. I certainly do believe in a second chance, not just a second chance, but I believe that all of us are extended another chance just by virtue of the grace that we receive each and every day from our endowed Creator, regardless of what your religious affiliation is. Whether you are a Christian, whether you're Muslim, we submit ourselves often to a higher power.
But pause for 1 second. Hold your thoughts. Second chance is also like being pardoned. That means you've accepted your responsibility of what you did. That's when you are granted second chance because you are not entitled to second chance. So continue.
Yeah, I think that once people have served their debt to society, certainly I do believe in a second chance. Now, whether or not I believe that you should be restored back to the same position or seat that you once violated is another question within itself. I would say no to that. I wouldn't give a snake a second chance to sort of bite me in the same way. So with that being said, I will say that, Donald Trump's case have been adjudicated not only in the court of public opinion, but it was adjudicated in the courts. And this time the courts did get it right. And I think that, once he's sentenced, should he serve his time? If he decides to get back into the political arena, if folks would have him and elect him, then that's on that respective community. But I certainly do think that we should raise a standard, and I think that politics should not be any different. I think politics is one of the fewer professions where people don't necessarily have to have a certain qualification in order for them to get into office. And I think that when that happens, you get the bottom of the belly. You get people who raise their hand because they want to be sometime important. And they say, let me just jump into the arena and let me do this. But their heart is not in it for the people. They're in it kind of for their own self-aggrandizement, etc. But I think we got to start having some standards. And that means it starts at the local level because we know that all politics are local,
Local.
and then it feeds itself up to the state level and the national level. But I think that if we start embodying a different standard and engendering that at a local level, we'll start seeing the levels of power sort of change a little bit in terms of what our expectations are around our leadership. Like I said, every community gets to decide who's going to represent them. And oftentimes, when you have communities that have lower standards because they have not had, people who've represented them that represents hope, then you kind of get the same thing over and over again. And so we got to just try to not keep repeating old patterns and actually trying to insert newer voices with good ideas, people with good hearts, people with integrity, folks who represent the highest ideals of what it means to be espouse the American values. And I think that's what we need to see.
So if you had, as you climb this ladder, if you was to become, if you was to become a senator, a U.S. senator one day, as I predict that, hopefully it was written, what will be your number one agenda? The number
Oh,
one bill, the number one bill that you would like to pass.
well, the number one bill that I really would like to pass is I think that this country has been weak-willed in our ability to really address systemic and institutional injustice, and particularly economic injustice. When we think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., when I go back and look at all of his literature, the literature indicates that Dr. King wasn't killed because he had a dream. He actually was killed because he challenged the economic conditions of America when he went to Memphis, Tennessee, and challenged them on how sanitation workers were being paid. And then when he started really messing with the money system of America, that's when they really took him down. He understood that if we address the issue of poverty, then we could actually level the playing field. Education is critically important. It's one vehicle to help drive people and their families out of poverty. And when people are more educated, people tend to make more educated kinds of decisions about themselves, and they tend to have a higher and greater standard of living for themselves and the expectation that they have in their communities. We have to, and it's something I'm working on here in the state of Connecticut as well, with the senator from Hartford, where he is trying to redesign sort of the census tract to address concentrated poverty, which I think is so important because we know that there is a strong correlation between poverty and crime. And we got to ensure that our urban centers are not urban centers of decay, but that they are urban centers of prosperity. And one of the things we have to address is the crime that's happening because we know that oftentimes when our young people and when our families touch the criminal legal system, that they are in that in perpetuity almost for the rest of their lives. There's this scarlet letter that they wear. And that makes it difficult and challenging for them to get housing. and makes it difficult and challenging for them to have any kind of social mobility, whether that is pursuing education, whether that is trying to get into a different economic tax bracket. It resigns them almost to a permanent status of underclass citizenship, which therefore continues to impugn where they're able to go and their social movement for generations. And we see that even exemplified here in Bridgeport, that the majority of our families have been touched by the criminal legal system and therefore have been caught up in this spider web. And this is just a microcosm of what's happening all across the United States, whether we're talking about Chicago, whether we're talking about Florida, whether we're talking about Alabama, Georgia, anywhere where there may be an urban center or anywhere there may be Black or brown rural poverty, we see the same kinds of trends with the same kinds of narratives that's driving the story that keeps our people from economic prosperity.
All right, this is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM WNHHLP. I am your host, Kingsley Osei. And if you are just joining us today on Urban Talk Radio, you can join the conversation on Facebook at Bold Minds and Twitter at Bold Minds. You can also stream this show on your smartphone or computer by logging on to newhavenindependent.org. I'm also streaming live on my Facebook page, Kingsley OSEI. We are also joined by our special guest, Reverend Dr. Herron Gaston, who is the VP of External Affairs and Chief of Staff to the President. And he's also the incumbent for running for the state Senate for the 23rd district. We are going through his legislative accomplishment, and he's also going to tell us what he's going to continue to do if he is elected back to his seat. We were talking about re-entry. To get back to it, I would like to give a big shout out to my sis, Tashera Jackson. Congratulations on your second chance for being the director of the City of Bridgeport's Myra program, which is the mayor's initiative for re-entry affairs. You used to be be a part of that initiative.
Absolutely,
is that correct?
yes. You are correct.
Are you still one of the officers? Talk to me.
Yes, you are correct. A lot of my my work, my academic work at Yale University, was around prison reform. I wrote a book entitled "Practically Reversing the Trends of Mass Incarceration," which is a all-school book read at many institutions that they teach students about how to really get involved in the community to help people who are formerly incarcerated get back on their feet. I also work very closely with Michelle Alexander, who wrote the book "The New Jim Crow in the Age of Colorblindness," and also did some work with James Foreman, who's a professor at Yale University School of Law. And I continued that work while I was at Quinnipiac University School of Law pursuing my Juris Doctorate degree. And while I was working in the city of Bridgeport, initiatives and programmatic things that took place around the city in tandem with the director at the time, Earl Bloodworth, over the reentry program. So this is an area of extreme dedication and devotion for me, because I understand all too well the collateral consequences of what comes along with touching the criminal legal system, and wanting to ensure that I use my position and privilege as a voice to stand up for those folks who may not necessarily have the same opportunity to be able to speak widely about what their experiences are, and to try to make some systemic and deep needed changes for the betterment of our communities.
This shouts to my sis, Miss Terry Williams, of Connecticut Against Violence. I know she's also a part of the advisors of the Myra program. You also did intern for the late John Lewis. Is that correct?
I did. I was an intern for Congressman John Lewis. This is one of the reasons I got very deeply involved in politics, because one of the last things that he said to me is that, Herron, when you see a problem, don't be afraid to get involved, to make noise and to make good trouble. And he said that every community needs an angelic troublemaker to not resign to the status quo, but to push us to become better versions of ourselves. And so kudos to him and what I was able to learn from him. And I'm very deeply close to many of his relatives, both in Alabama and in Florida.
Now, Bridgeport politics is really very distasteful. I don't like to touch on it much, but it looked like we just elect anybody in Bridgeport. and it looks very problematic. It's almost like the Lauren Bopez and the Majority Greens, and what is going on in Bridgeport that makes people don't want to vote. What is it?
Well, I think that people are tired of the same old same. I think that, people are smart enough to know that you can't keep applying old school remedies to new school tactics, and you have people who are in it for themselves often and not necessarily in it for the people. And that's not true of all of the politicians in Bridgeport. But that is what I'm hearing consistently when I'm knocking on people's doors, is that no one cares.
Mm,
They don't want to get involved because, they've been lied to in the past. They are skeptical of leadership because their leaders are consistently getting in trouble or doing something that brings shame to the community. And so these folks just don't want to get involved. They have voter apathy and voter fatigue. Um, so I think, when people do see a sliver of hope and they see, someone new who represents fresh ideas, someone who is articulate, who could speak intelligently about the issues, someone who cares passionately about the people and have a heart for the people, they want to support that. But at the same time, they feel like they're outnumbered because all of the noise in the background and the people that they're so accustomed to dealing with, they feel that anything new, you're not from here, you don't have much stake in the game in the same way. And what I say to them is that, old trees, do have firm roots, but oftentimes newer trees could have just as firm of roots as an old tree and could be just as committed to the community. And Bridgeport has a way of not really being friendly to outsiders. That has been my own personal
mm,
experience. But
mm.
overwhelmingly, I have been embraced by many of the voters in Bridgeport who say to me consistently, whether they see me in the grocery store, whether they see me, walking the trail or walking in the community, hey, keep doing the great thing that you're doing. We haven't seen somebody like you in a very long time. Please don't be discouraged. Stay in the race. Stick it out. We need you. So that has been comforting and a very sobering reminder to me that I need to listen to those voices opposed to the vocal minority who is trying to make me resign from the position or telling me that I need to put my tail between my leg and
Mm.
pack it up and get out of Bridgeport. I'm here to stay. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to continue to do the work, whether in this position or not in this position. And I'm not going to let anyone run me out of town.
Well, that sounds like something I'm familiar with, and you actually witnessed me being beat up, and actually brought us closer for me to know who's got my best interest and who doesn't. This was me being beat up that I should not be in a position to be doing a recognition award for any for a hip hop event in Connecticut because I'm not from Connecticut. I'm not even from the country to even acknowledge it. I'm like, I've lived in Connecticut since 1990. How do you tell me I'm
How
not?
long is too long? How long
How
is
long is how long is too how long is too long? So yes, that is that dirty game that they play in Bridgeport, which is why good things leave Bridgeport, man. I'm always sending you this thing from my friend Jesus R, who is the CEO of social impact content film school. And I wrote my grant, which was denied, and told me I lost some points, and they never told me where those points were lost at. I didn't believe them. I knew it was politic and bull crap. And you actually seen that grant, and you actually talked about how great it was. It was supposed to be something real big, but what I do see in Bridgeport is we love the little things and don't look at the big things. We love the little things. If I had asked for $20,000, $30,000 to do a youth summit and to do a hip hop expression of Black history, I probably would have got it. But when I went big, I didn't get it because I didn't go big, because we like to see the small things. And every time I get a notification from my man Jesus. I feel so proud. And then at the same time, all I think of is Bridgeport could have had this opportunity that he brought to Yonkers.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think it was a failed and it was a missed opportunity. And you brought so much to this community. You continue to provide a source of hope, inspiration, and integrity to this community. That if all good people like you know, pack up your bags and go somewhere else and contribute somewhere else, then the folks here don't necessarily get the gifts to the magnitude that they could receive it because you have so much to offer. And that's why I believe that, you know, regardless of what darts are thrown my direction, I'm going to stay flat-footed and stand up. And I do have God on my side. If God be for you, then who can be against you? And so when a million people tell me no, if God says yes, then it shall be so. And I stand on that principle as a man of faith, as a man of God, as a person who have been in many different positions because I've been privileged and blessed to do so. I think that a part of that leadership is standing firmly in that and saying, I'm not going to go anywhere and I'm going to continue to stand up because there's some kid out there, there's some young person out there whose life is depending on somebody to stand up for them. And so I wanted to just give you kudos for doing that consistently. I hear young people all the time who talk to me to say, wow, you know, Kingsley really made a difference in my life, you know, but for having Kingsley in my life, you know, I probably would have taken my life with so much trauma, you know, that I've had to endure. You know, he stood up and he became a mentor of mine. I mean, I think that those things are important. It's about what you do during the time that you have here on earth to make a difference in somebody else's life is the indicator that your life is not in vain. And so I want you to know that if you did that in Bridgeport, I know you're doing that everywhere that you are, and continue to be that shining light because you're helping to really save lives.
Well, thank you. I already did pack my bag, and it's community against violence now. It's community against violence. It's not territorial anymore. We're taking it anywhere that is necessary. That's needed. Um, now let's talk about public safety. I know public safety is one of the things that you really, hold dear to your heart. Let's talk about public safety in the city of Bridgeport and Stratford, which you do cover. Why is the violence elevating back in Bridgeport again? We are getting into the summer, it's getting hot, and it's not even here yet. To my knowledge, it was about what, maybe 9 or 10 shooting on Memorial Day weekend. What is that all about?
So yeah, so basically, first of all, I want to say that I think our police chief, Chief Porter, along with the Bridgeport Police Department, is really doing an amazing job, especially considering that they are working on a very limited capacity with respect to the amount of officers that should be manning our streets on a daily basis. But they've been able to really still be able to perform to deliver services to our communities without missing a beat. So I want to just give kudos to the chief on that. With respect to homicides in the city of Bridgeport, our police department really does an amazing job. I mean, the numbers are incredibly high. I believe over 85, 90 something percent of people who commit a crime in the city, you know, they will be captured, they will be caught because we have really sophisticated technologies in our detective bureau to find people once a crime is committed. We do have Spots Fired, which is a technology instrument that's used that can detect the sound of a gun when it goes off, therefore giving law enforcement personnel and EMS an opportunity to get to the scene of the incident as expeditiously as possible to help save lives. We know that within 6 minutes or so, if you don't get to a shooting, people rapidly lose blood, and the closer it is for a person to actually die from their wounds if they don't get the treatment in time. So our police department have been able to do a good job. Our EMS have been able to do a good job in terms of responding. But like you said, during Memorial Day, we had 5 shootings that took place that prompted the governor of the state and other state officials to come down to the city of Bridgeport and to do a press conference to basically say to the community under no uncertain terms and to say it emphatically that Bridgeport is not going to be a cesspool for violence and that those folks who engage in that conduct will be held accountable and to the highest level of the law that we're able to hold them accountable for, because we want to make sure that no one life is at jeopardy or in danger, and that Bridgeport remains a safe place for people to grow their families and to live here. But nonetheless, to your point around public safety, we have to do a better job of investing the proper resources into the proper programs that we can see some tangible results. Now, I know there may be some anecdotal data out there that some people keep about what their organization is doing and how much their organization is contributing. And I do believe that those things are all true and people's hearts are in the right place. But I do think that we need data-driven programs to show the actual impact that those programs are making. If Bridgeport is receiving astronomical amounts of money to deal with violence prevention, then our numbers of shootings should go down opposed to going up. So that means that we have some work to do. So what I would like to do as the chair of public safety is to work with our Bridgeport delegation, along with the House and the Senate leadership, to advocate for more monies to go into gun violence prevention initiatives to curtail the violence happening in the community and to give our young people something to do. Oftentimes, these young people don't have anything to do. They don't have a job. There's no reason for the city of Bridgeport, as big as an organization as we are, to not have an intern in every single municipal office to give these kids a skill set to say, if you don't want to go to college, you can work in one of these departments, you can work your way up, you can have a meaningful living, an honest living, and you can make a decent wage working right here in the city of Bridgeport. We also need to, work with organizations like Street Safe, Rice App. We have Color Positive Thought. We have a lot of different wonderful programs here, but instead of working in silos, I think that we need to, at least on a quarterly basis, have those organizations work in together so that we can address this need and hopefully to drive down the shootings that's usually promulgated at the hands of young people between the ages of 18 and 26.
Big shouts to McDonald's, the Street Safe. Shouts to Harry Bell and my dear brother Steve Nelson for everything you guys are doing out there. You also run you have a youth program in your church. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we have a program that was started in 2015. It's called Youth with a Purpose. This program basically was birthed out of the church because we saw the significant need for educational quality in our community. And this program not only exposes young people to educational pathways, whether that is going to a 2-year institution, a 4-year institution, or to secure a trade. But we also do recreational activities with students as well. We take them, to college tours, whether that is at Howard University, Florida A&M University, Morehouse College. We've taken students to Yale, Harvard, Princeton, and some of the top institutions within our country, and we've graduated those students. We have, on average, every year between 52 to 72 students that attend this program, and I'm happy to say that every one of these students from high school graduate successfully from high school and matriculate to college or go on to get a trade. Cornell West, along with Michael Eric Dyson and some of the folks in that educational vein, have invested in our young people. And we've sent a number of young people from Bridgeport, the east end of Bridgeport to be exact, to Yale University and to Harvard. As you know, previously I worked at Yale. I was the first African-American Associate Director of Admissions, Recruitment, and Financial Aid at the Yale Divinity School since its inception, since 1822. And I've read countless of admissions applications. And so I've been a huge proponent, along with one of my colleagues, in helping students to get their application intact so that they could attend a rigorous academic experience and educational program. So I'm proud of the work that Youth with a Purpose is doing in the community to help transform young people's lives. And I'm excited about what we'll continue to do here in the city of Bridgeport and for our young people.
Now, as as the summer is approaching, I know these kids are going to need jobs. Make sure that we keep them off the streets. Make sure they got some money to get their Jordans and whatever else they need before they get back to school. Big shouts to my very dear friend Scott Wilderman at Career Resources. What are you guys doing? As you getting ready to make sure these kids are employed?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, many of the students that go through the Youth with a Purpose program, there is a employment. We do help them to get employment. We are connected to a wide breadth of people across the state of Connecticut and Fairfield County that put a lot of our kids to work. We have students who are in the computer science space, in the digital space, the AI space, who are exploring internship opportunities right now with a major organization in Fairfield County. Who employ a number of our students. We also have a number of students who are employed in some of the mom and pop organizations within the community. Folks over at Home Depot, they've been very helpful in terms of employing some of our kids for the summer. We've also have a number of students who are working at ShopRite while they are home in the summer. And then we also create opportunities within the Youth with a Purpose program for our students to be mentors, and there's a stipend that comes along with that. So within our organization, we do believe in making sure that we're keeping our students active and engaged, and that we're addressing and touching areas of their life that they need, from education to teaching them about how to balance a checkbook, to teaching them about the importance of discipline and employment. And so I'm proud to say that 95 or so of our students are already at work, and we continue to do that for the community, for those folks who participate.
We are moving around, talking about democracy. Hey, Harry might need to come in here and defend this one if he can. It says, so let me get this straight. You got fired from a top executive job because you did a poor job. The company immediately hired a new top executive. You follow me, Rev? You couldn't handle that. You were so angry you refused to leave. You called all your friends to come and vandalize the workplace. When you did leave on your way out the office, you took a lot of the company's confidential documents. And when you got caught, you refused to give many of them back. Now you are reapplying for the same job with the same company. In what country, in what corporation can you do this and go reapply for the job and get your job back? Please talk to me.
Well, what I'll say to you is that, again, there are a number of companies that actually hire folks who offend, folks who have been fired, folks who've been terminated, and now new to that list is the United States presidency. We've seen that happen even in some states where people have restored certain governors who have gone to prison, who've been accused of all these things and have been convicted, and they restore them back. I think that that's a terrible and a very poor standard. And I, like you, wonder how we dug our heels so deeply in the sand that we found ourselves here. We have to acknowledge where we are. We have to acknowledge the fact that poor behavior should not be tolerated, and that we need to have a higher standard for people that we elect to public positions, because not only does it impact us at a local level, it impacts us at a national level and an international level. And I think that America has become, in a lot of ways, a laughing stock to people around the world, precisely because we have allowed folks to run rogue and to justify it, and for them to quite candidly get by with it. It's surprising to me how many people still are following Donald Trump. In fact, I saw out on television the other day where someone basically alluded to the fact that Donald Trump is being treated in the same manner in which Jesus was being treated, that he's being betrayed, that he's being brought up on bogus charges in the court of public opinion, and that he's somehow being crucified. So it's It's almost laughable, right? It's sickening, but it's also laughable that that people would even blaspheme themselves to even say something like that, to have the mitigating gall and the intestinal fortitude to stand behind a man who's time and time again have shown that he is xenophobic, who's shown that he's homophobic, who's shown that he, is racist. He's not anti-racist, that many of his policies are, and that he has rewind the clock of America opposed to moving us forward. And so this is to show you how in America we could have racial progress, like in Obama, for example, and then can be followed immediately after that, followed by racial regress. And I think this is what Dr. King was talking about when he said that the moral arc of the universe is long, but that it bends towards justice. That every so often you see the pendulum swing in the right direction, and then it swings back in the opposite direction. And that has been sort of the rhythm and the song of America since its inception. But I'm hoping that we can restore ourselves back to a day where we can be prouder to be Americans, prouder of the people that we select to public office, and that we can be better versions of ourselves.
Well, this is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM WNHHLP. We all have a responsibility to tell nothing but the truth. And yes, the right-wing media is going to continue their propaganda. They're going to continue the Russian network agenda. They're going to continue to tell you that President Joe Biden is responsible for getting Donald Trump convicted as a felon in the state of New York. But it's up to you to know your civic, to know how the justice system works, so that you don't allow yourself to be told just anything. And knowing that they have a voting bloc that just believe anything they tell them, and they will continue to do so. Unfortunately, Democrat doesn't know how to play that game, to go out there when the mic comes on and tell nothing but the truth. Because when the mic comes on, the other side tells nothing but the lies, and the lies do penetrate. Reverend Gaston, we do thank you very much for coming out here to make your case. I'll give you 1 minute to be exact, to just give us a wrap up for why you should be elected as we're getting into this 11 o'clock mark.
Yes. Thank you so very much for this opportunity to interview with you again today. To those folks who are listening, and especially to my constituents in the 23rd Senatorial District encompassing parts of Bridgeport and the town of Stratford, I have been harmoniously elated to represent you in the state Senate. I've demonstrated that I am a worker. I've demonstrated that from day one, that I'm willing to roll up my sleeves, to hit the ground running, and to produce tangible results for the community. You don't do that without having someone in office who knows what they're doing and who's garnered the respect and reputation of those in the Senate and those that are on the ground. I look forward to continue to serve as your state senator for as long as you have me, and I look forward to knocking on your doors during this campaign season to let you know what I've done, and to also hear your issues as I take them back to Hartford to work on your behalf.
Good luck, and we hope to see you back for a debate with Brother Ernie. We see Brother Ernie Newton will be here next week. City Councilman Brother Ernie Newton will be featured next week. Thank you very much. This is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM, and I'm your host, Kinsley, aka Thank you.
Thank you.